So we're here today with Sharmila Reed, who is the Supporter Relations Director for ADRA Canada. You were telling me a little earlier about an experience that you had with a family member who perhaps didn't plan out their estate plan, didn't get everything in order, and you were telling me some of the challenges that you faced as a result of that. Can you share with me a little more about that and how what the effect was of this person not planning everything out?
Sure. And there was planning. There was a will,
Okay.
but not the funeral arrangements had not been made.
Ah.
And there was a rumor that there was a list of wishes, but no one could ever find it.
Okay.
And the death was unexpected. And the person had passed away in Jamaica.
Mm.
And I know I don't look like I'm from Jamaica, but my family is from Jamaica.
Okay.
And so my relative spent significant portions of time in that country and was actually planning to come back the day after she passed away, had the ticket booked, bags packed, everything. And no one was expecting her to pass away, but she did. And then there was the added complication of returning her home to Canada. But I think what the big surprise for me was the cost.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people pass away, we go to funerals fairly often, but no one ever talks about the cost. People just say, oh, well, this was expensive. And when you go to different funerals, when you're at that point in your life where you're going to a lot of funerals, you notice the differences. So some people have a viewing the night before. Some people only have a viewing the day of. Some people have it in the church. Some people have it at the funeral home. More and more people are opting for cremation. And you know that these are things that are driven by cost. But until you are in the midst of doing the planning, for me, it was really eye-opening and eye-watering as to what the costs were and what I thought it would cost. You know, you pretty much had to triple or quadruple that to come up with the real cost. And, you know, we were extremely lucky that the relative had the money in the bank to pay for all of that. And so, you know, that level of planning was there. But even so, I don't think she understood how much it was going to cost either.
Okay. So maybe she put down what her wishes were, but didn't really take that next step to look at what the cost was going to be for that. And maybe if they had done that, they would have looked at other options, possibly something that would have been in alignment with what their wishes were.
Right. And I mean, I think we did honor her
Okay.
in a way that she would have been happy with.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of discussion that maybe didn't need to happen.
Okay.
And all families, I think, get a little emotional when someone close to them passes away.
Okay.
And, you know, there were people who didn't quite agree with particular decisions, but, you know, everyone mourns in their own way. And I don't think there were any hard or bad feelings afterwards. It was a process that with a little bit more involvement could have been eased for the family, I think.
Okay. Because you were sharing with me earlier that there may have been some challenges with the will. Maybe it wasn't completely thought out. It wasn't as thought out maybe as it should have been. And was there an element of, well, this really isn't a problem because I'm not going to die soon? Or, you know, were they kind of putting it off, thinking this isn't a problem for today, it's a problem for tomorrow?
No, I think it was just that it was done.
Okay.
They had completed the will. They had, you know, done that obligation.
Check that box.
Check that box.
It's
And there
done.
wasn't this thought that, okay, well, there will be difficulties perhaps with the executors or challenges with who will be available to go and deal with certain aspects of it.
Okay.
And definitely zero thought as to what would happen if she had passed away in Jamaica versus in Canada.
Okay. And she went to Jamaica often, so this wasn't something that was an unknown.
Yes.
So maybe something that should have been considered when putting a plan in place. But what I'm also hearing you say is that our plans need to be reviewed on a regular basis to make sure that it is addressing all of the concerns that one has about settling an estate.
Yes. And, you know, there was property in Jamaica, and so that I think it was taken into account in the will, but it's always a difficult thing to deal with when you are a country away.
Okay. So if there are some of these unexpected costs, what's the real problem? I mean, it sounds like there was enough money in the estate to cover them. What's the downside?
Well, the downside is, from my experience at my previous job, was that sometimes when you do have these unexpected costs, there ends up not being enough money to honor all of the bequests that are in the
Oh,
will.
okay.
So if the funeral costs are 3 or 4 times what you were expecting, and you don't realize that the executor needs to be paid and the lawyer has to do a lot of legwork, then those costs, they add up, and they add
Okay.
up really quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a time factor in there as well, because, say that one of your bequests was to a grandchild for education, and that tuition money isn't available when it needs to be,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a significant issue that your executor and lawyer are going to have to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start the planning process early, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the processes, you learn a lot about the costs, and you learn about what your estate can reasonably bear.
Okay.
Because it's hard for the family too when they have to start making decisions about how to best honor your wishes when there's just not enough money left.
Right. Yeah. And ultimately, we don't want our estates to go to lawyers and court costs, but we
Mhm.
want it to go to our family members and to the ministries that we love and want to support.
Mhm.